Let's ramble. Well, we did a bit of that. Let's do it again.
Let's do some more rambling. This
Let's
time,
just ramble. And I've got some records that we could show as well.
Yeah. Rambles and records.
Yeah.
Rambles and records.
First one I'll tell you is Maccabees. Maccabees are reuniting for a show at All Points East next summer. They broke up, I think, around 2016-17, so it's the first thing they've done since then. Then also the Horrors are releasing an album next year as well. I don't think they ever broke up. I kind of stopped following them, so I'm not really too aware of what they've been up to, but I have seen on their Spotify and stuff that they have had some releases out, but I think they haven't been as active as they were
before
at the start of the
Yeah, whereas Maccabees is a bit more of a surprise. There's a bit more of a surprise element to it because,
it's been an interesting couple of weeks because with hearing about that, I've kind of gone back and revisited like a lot of old albums. I've kind of ended up going on a bit of a time traveling thing. I've dipped into lots of different phases from
Billy's
teenage
nostalgic experience. Nice.
Yeah. So I was probably into them when I was at like sixth form. So it's getting close to like probably more than 15 years ago now.
It's mate, just don't think about the actual years. Honestly, some of the things I've been mentally working out in my head lately, it's just been making me feel physically sick. So yeah, I feel your pain, mate. Yeah, that was the time where they were biggest. I was hearing them all the time. Like,
no, like my cousin, who is technically the baby in the family, but she's like 24 now. She saw Block Party touring, doing a reunion tour of their first album, probably about 4 years ago. Like,
they're touring now.
Yeah, I think they've released new music and stuff since. But like, they were a band I was listening to before I was listening to the Maccabees, so I definitely don't want to go back too far about how long ago that was.
Oh
and
god,
the thing is, like, my cousin who saw them doing the reunion tour for Silent Alarm would have been probably a toddler when it was out. So like to her, it was like watching like us going to see like Nirvana or something as 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds.
Fucking horrible, ain't it? A Block Party don't even feel that old. Oh,
I know.
God. I used to love Block Party. See, Block Party I definitely got on with.
Yeah, I saw them a bunch. I remember going to see them in Wolverhampton when I was at sixth form.
Wow. What, the Civic?
Yeah. So I saw them a bunch of times. And I saw the Horrors a bunch of times as well.
Yeah, man. I mean, they were about. I just didn't really connect with them. But that album today, Listen to Primary Colours, I'm definitely reliving what I should have lived before, probably.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So after rediscovering them now, I felt like they were a good band to bring up on the podcast because I found out recently that they first sort of became friends over a shared passion for records, like rare records and interest in old music. And I think they were like into like post-punk stuff from the 80s and bands like Bauhaus and New Order and a bunch of stuff from that period. And you can hear the influences, I think, in their music.
What year was the prime time Billy loving Maccabees in the Horrors?
I remember walking to the bus stop to go to college from my dad's house. I probably had like a Sony Ericsson Walkman phone.
Yeah.
With Maccabees'
slide
second album
one or the flip one?
Nah, neither. It was like a brick.
Oh, I think I had one of them as well. Quite a chunky little thing. They had like a white and orange one.
Yeah, that's the one. That one.
Yeah. I think I had that one. Sick. We'll put it up on the screen. There it is.
I remember having the album as an MP3 on my phone. So this was before streaming services.
LimeWire.
Yeah, I definitely didn't pay for it.
No, you did.
I mean, I didn't have any money at that age.
No, that's why someone else bought it for you. Bill, you don't want Polydor after you.
But this was like, okay, we're getting closer to the main, what my main point is going to be in a second. The guys that I was talking to in secondary school about it weren't like my main group of friends. My main group of friends were more into like metalcore and emo and like harder rock stuff. And then there was like another group of kids that did like indie. And then, so at some point during secondary school, I went from like a harder rock crowd to going into indie.
You had to make a choice.
Yeah, but it was a bit of a weird one because the guys that I started hanging around with that were listening to indie didn't go to my school. The indie kids at my school, like we were friends, but I didn't really hang out with them. I found another group outside of my school, but in my neighborhood that I started hanging out with.
So it was okay then? It would have been fine to listen to more music? Like different types at that time?
Yeah, like I
Because you
think
could
there was
just
still
wear many hats, just get
yeah, no,
changed on your way to meeting, like just take the studded like leather vest off and then fucking put on one of those 3-button Y-neck t-shirts from Top Man. Do you
yeah.
remember
I had a few of them.
them?
The classic indie shirt or whatever. A few check shirts as well.
Few check shirts.
Then anyway, yeah, definitely. I mean, if, in the metalcore scene and in the indie scene, we were wearing jeans that were too tight for us and wore them
But yeah,
halfway around our ass.
ridiculously skinny jeans. Like, preferably women's jeans. The jeans were universal. It didn't matter whether you was into the Strokes or,
Bring
so
me the
like
horizon.
indie or Bring Me the Horizon. Yeah, absolutely. Skinny jeans are a must.
But yeah, so no, it was interesting for me. I found because I kind of felt like growing up, like with my parents both kind of into their music, and my
Hmm.
dad having a lot of influence and like listening to a lot of like older rock stuff, like obviously the Alice Cooper, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, all that kind of stuff that you'd expect. And he always kind of had a very negative attitude towards pop music or what was in the radio or, kind of the mainstream stuff. I ended up having like a natural aversion to anything that might be a bit more mainstream. So, like, when I started getting into indie bands, and that was like the mainstream at the time. I mean, it was still alternative, but like it was still a lot more
It,
mainstream than like anything I'd listened to before. I almost felt like a
mm,
bit of guilt about liking it, and like it
right.
almost felt like that was my rebellion. Like for a lot of like our parents' generation, getting into punk music was like their rebellion against the parents. And for me, it was the other way around. It was like the more mainstream my taste got, that was like my
Ah, yeah.
rebellion against my
Right.
parents.
You can't tell me that, I can't listen to pop. Yeah,
But like,
interesting, man.
because I mean, like the music that I got into, like I would say that a lot of the indie bands were kind of more inspired from punk. Like if you follow it back enough, the roots are probably can be traced more down the punk history. Like if you look at bands like the Cribs or Libertines or
Mm,
even like Block Party or the Horrors, they have more roots in like the punk tree than pop. But just that period in the 2000s, that was what was popular. That was what was on T4. That was what was on Radio 1. That was like the
absolutely. It
mainstream.
broke through, didn't it? I'd go as far as to say, like, indie was more punk than pop punk because that was going on as well. But they didn't feel punk at all because it didn't have its own style or flavor that was something like really edgy. Indie had its own flair of punk.
I guess the pop punk stuff was more American, so it had maybe more of that like
Mm,
over the top kind of production quality to it, maybe.
yeah,
Whereas the British indie stuff maybe was a bit more down to earth and relatable to us as British kids, probably.
absolutely.
But yeah, so out of that, I had a question for you.
Hmm.
Did you ever have a moment of listening or discovering a genre of music which felt kind of rebellious or naughty, but also liberating?
Yeah. First band that's come into my head, and it's a little bit cliche, I guess, and corny, but it was Rage Against the Machine. It was when I was, I had my baggy jeans on. This is before the indie scene now. I'm talking maybe I was probably 12, and I've got the portable CD player in the big pocket at the back of them. And I got a Rage Against the Machine CD and I think self-titled. And
Yeah.
yeah, Yeah, that was like when I was like, fuck everyone,
Do you
fuck
think?
the world. Like I'm in the best. I'm in the prime of my life, and life is never going to get any better. And fuck everything. Fuck the establishment. I don't even know what the establishment is, but
Yeah,
fuck
but
them.
fuck it.
Yeah, yeah.
The thing is, my
So
dad
yeah,
showed me the album. My dad got me into the album. That was
yeah,
like
yeah,
that was part of my tea
yeah.
time cultural
Yeah,
education.
sit down, son. Oh, your dad's pretty cool for that, to be honest. But yeah, that would be the answer initially.
I guess from my perspective, it was more, because my dad was so opinionated
Mm.
on music and stuff. It was almost like I was maybe conscious that like my taste might get judged, or like if I'd come
Right.
home as like an 8-year-old and saying, "Oh, I love the Spice Girls. I'd like a Spice Girls record," like
No dinner tonight.
I'd be convinced otherwise. Like, "Oh no, you should check out Alice Cooper more," or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I guess what I'm kind of getting at is like at a certain age, at least for me, I felt like I don't know, yeah, maybe this isn't a universal thing, but I was always a bit conscious of my opinion,
Mm.
like, and kind of, I think as I kind of grow up and you're trying to fit in a bit, you're kind of like checking what other people like before you admit if you like it or not, so that you don't accidentally say you like something that
The
everyone
wrong
hates.
thing.
Yeah,
100%, mate. I did that all through my school years. I didn't say really anything was my word until I'd heard from others that it is cool and good. You know,
yeah,
uh,
no,
it wasn't
exactly.
until I reached adulthood that I was confident enough to properly say, I like this album and I don't really care. Or, like, it's not like that I don't care either, because that sounds a bit like snooty, but it's almost like, I like this album. What's
Yeah,
your
no,
opinion on it? And
no,
then,
exactly.
you know, um, but yeah, I cared way too much what people thought, and it
I think,
definitely inspired and persuaded my taste for music at that adolescent age, I would say, yeah.
yeah, no, exactly. And I do think that is a natural part of growing up. And I think there is like evolutionary reasons for it. It's,
Mm.
as our brains are developing and we need to be part of a tribe or whatever, we kind of, at that age, we kind of see what our peers are doing and we make an effort to fit in a bit more as we develop our social skills more. And then, so like, I think that is a natural thing that we go through. But yeah, I guess for me, it started at home because my
Mm.
dad had such a strong opinion on the music he liked. And then, so for me, having that period of finding my own branch of music that was outside of like the traditional rock thing. I mean, like, my dad wasn't into Slipknot or some of the heavier bands I was
The
into,
real
but
heavy shit.
I still felt like that kind of conformed to
Mm.
a certain, like,
Certain kind of blueprint
yeah,
um, that your dad would have maybe listened to and gone, there's a checklist, a flowchart that goes off in his head in that moment that goes, you know, does it go against this? Yes. Does it go against that? And it's like similar values to the ethos of like punk, to
and
which he would then go, yes, okay,
it's not, and just to clarify, it's not that he was ever analyzing what I was listening to or actually judging me, but I think it was just, my
right.
preconception of or expectation from that strong opinion.
You naturally, I think, want to gravitate towards what your parents are doing because you idolize them, you want to be like them in some way, when you're growing up. And then, um, kind of, I guess from that, you don't want to let them down, do you? It reminds me of like when I had to tell my dad that I didn't want to play Sunday league football anymore. Um,
Yeah, I
so
also
it's a tricky
remember the
one.
first time because I always used to watch football games with my dad as well, and I remember
Mm.
like just there was a match on, and I just really didn't want to watch it, and I remember just having to be like, I don't want to watch it, but, like it bores me.
I love that. You went fully into for the like 7-year-old Billy voice and everything. I don't want to watch it. Don't know why you're northern.
But yeah, it was a big moment, and
Yeah.
and I think it was a similar thing to like finding my own feet with music as well. Like
Yeah.
once I kind of found my own feet with music a bit.
I
So-
like the horrors.
Yeah.
The horrors came a bit later, but yeah, you get the point. So that's interesting. Go back to the thing you said about the pop thing and how that's in reverse. That's really interesting, I think. I don't know if I've never heard of that. I didn't go through that, but I
Yeah.
can see why people would if you came up from a background of punk and you need to rebel. So you rebel against the thing that's around you the most.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like it just like it felt strange to finally like something that was more mainstream and to be able to like share like enjoyment with this thing that suddenly there were lots of other people that like it as well, rather than just like you have to find the one or two other weirdos that like what you like.
Yeah. And it's almost like if people judge you for liking it, they're judging a mass market. They're judging a lot of people. So you feel like that you've got that reinforcement
Mm.
if someone does judge you for it. But if it's something that isn't in the charts, isn't on telly, it hasn't broke through to that mainstream, and someone judges you for it, you're probably going to feel more alienated instead
Yeah,
of maybe, well, you just don't know what you're talking about. Clearly, you just don't know what's cool. You know, that would have been the usual response, I guess.
yeah. I mean, I don't know that like I necessarily felt that safety net from that. I just felt like maybe I had like a natural barrier to liking something which seemed widely accepted and appreciated, and like coming past that was like a liberating thing. And like the music that I found from it was still great, and like I can still appreciate it now. So it's not even that like the substance of what it was any less. Um, but it just goes to show like what's the point? Like I don't know. I guess some people are out on a mission to find like the most obscure, the most challenging kind of art to like show how sophisticated they are or like how edgy they are. But like there's a great freedom or great liberty in enjoying universally loved stuff as well.
That's very true, man. And I think that's something that I'll be honest, I think up until maybe even I'd say the last 2 to 3 years, I think I've shared similar views to your dad in the sense that I've maybe unintentionally judged certain styles of music without giving it the proper like due
Time of day.
diligence and time of day towards ensuring in my own head that I definitely don't like it.
Yeah.
I've played the easy card and gone, oh, no, I don't like that. But maybe like if I dug a little bit deeper and asked myself, well, why don't I like that? It might be simply not because of the sound, but simply because it doesn't fall into the same category as what I've perceived to be cool in my 20s. And
hmm
it's only now in the last few years that I think I've dropped that a little bit and kind of now I go in with a bit of an open mind and I have ended up liking things more mainstream. And it does give you a sense of, yeah, like kind of a sense of community that you didn't feel like you was a part of before. And it's a part that I missed because I turned into a cynical bastard talking about, I've said it on here before, like, oh, festival lineups just aren't the same anymore. And they're just, the bands on the 1992 Reading lineup, I would have loved to see all of those bands because at the time grunge popped off and all the bands had gone mainstream and all the lineup bills were covered in them. And I like that music. But, you know, that means then that you're not enjoying a festival, say, because it's got, I don't know, Coldplay on the bill. Because I think we did literally reference that. To be fair, that's not a bad example. I do fucking hate Coldplay.
Yeah, me too. Like, yeah. I also
You know
want
what I
to
mean, and
clarify.
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like the idea like of, I feel like I've missed out now on maybe years to have that sense of community with a larger mass audience. But there's always time to claw it back, I suppose.
and
Um,
I think as well, it's not always just mass audiences as well, but there's like other alternative audiences that are also big. Like, for example, like for a long time, I didn't really have much of an ear for hip hop or R&B or anything in that realm. And then that's something that I've only kind of that came later in life. And that's been a great kind of thing to explore and that I've been able to share with different people that I've met along the way that maybe I wouldn't have been able to have conversations with 10 years before.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's more of a talk of genres. It's like juggling genres with your personal taste and how your personal taste matures and grows and, changes. Um, and then you throw another thing in the mix, which is like the culture element of like how many other people are feeling that at the same time as you. Um, and yeah, I think hip hop's a good example. I definitely had a stint of hip hop at just like starting secondary school, and then it withered away, and it comes back, and I think it's the best way to enjoy music. Like really, like double down on something for a year or so, study it,
Yeah,
listen to it, appreciate it, and then put it to rest for a bit. Because if you just keep going at that, you get sick of it. It's
yeah,
like kind of like the analogy of you find a new song, you play the shit out of it, and then you get annoyed by it, and you can't ever hear it again. In comparison, so yeah,
I
it's the
think there's
best way to
something
be.
to be said there as well about the way we consume music has changed, like from our generation to our parents' generation. I think um, perhaps labels and genres were, and I think we might have touched on this before, but I think they were a bit more useful before, because obviously we have so much available to us now at a click of a button. We can explore these genres
Anything,
without any cost. We
yeah.
can go from jazz to pop to hip hop to rock to metal, like all in one morning, and it's quite normal now. And you are hearing a lot more blends of genres in music as well, and in culture. And there's a lot less of like the tight identification that people used to have with a particular scene or genre, which I can imagine had a lot of convenience in a time where the only way you got music was either through listening to a radio station which catered to a particular audience, or going to clubs which catered to a particular audience, and having to spend money on records where, like, if you know that you like The Cure, New Order, and Bauhaus or whatever, you know that you're more likely to like other bands that fall under that genre in the record store, as opposed to spending your hard-earned pocket money on, I don't know.
Back when people didn't have much access to unlimited amounts, different sources of music, like we said, and you had to go to the record store. You had your pocket money. You had kind of like money for one record. You'd trust the judgment of the guy in the record store, and there's a chance that you might like, the album more because of it. But then I was thinking, like, kind of, how do people do that now? Well, people probably do that more now in the sense of like
Well, how
places
do
like
people get recommendations?
yeah, or trust those recommendations. It's kind of like I was thinking like Pitchfork or
Well,
like
I think maybe
Radio
like
6.
these days it's more the algorithm than anything.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Like I think online media wasn't that different from the printed media before. And like I think
Mm.
like when I was a teenager and when I was a student at uni, I did used to read a lot of online music publications then, like
Mm.
Pitchfork, Enemy, but I don't do it anymore.
No,
And
I definitely don't as much either. Yeah,
like
so you're
I
right.
guess
Actually, I didn't think of the algorithm. The algorithm in itself has turned into the guy behind the counter.
yeah. So like Spotify obviously recommends so much stuff, and social media probably puts stuff in our field of view as well a bit.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I think the Spotify algorithm has hit the nail on the head many times for me.
Yeah. Like
Um,
I've discovered a lot through through Spotify's recommendations. It's come a long way from, I remember, I think MSN or Microsoft used to have like a recommend feature, and it was awful.
did they?
Like
Oh,
back in
shit.
2005
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. That must have been time ago.
It just
Yeah.
it was just, it was obviously
Awful.
very basic, tagged with rock. Oh, okay, so here's
Maroon 5. You'll love Maroon 5.
exactly,
Oh,
it was like
fuck.
that.
Okay.
And
I think it's come a long way. It's definitely a valuable source. However, I do think you can then get complacent to only trust that and almost lazy.
I've realized something recently, like you can have too much of a good thing, and
Yeah.
and you're right, it does hit the nail on the head and does deliver great recommendations. But
Mm-hmm.
I think, like you say, you do become lazy. And I found a period where I was just letting Spotify pick all my music for me all the time. And I got to the point where I couldn't even name half of the music I was listening to at a given period. And you lose like a bit of a personal connection with the music in a sense.
Yeah. Because you're losing the journey to find it.
Yeah, and you're also not like making the effort to, yeah, exactly. You're losing the effort to find it. You're not really learning about the people behind the music. You're not getting that journey, that their personal journey, which also I think adds a lot to music. I think a large part of discovering bands as a teenager or a young adult, there is an element of like associating with people that you can relate to and being like, oh, they get me, man. And then like you kind of,
They get me because they wear this, or they're signed to this label, or they've mentioned this in their songs, and yeah, I think that can get you there, and from there, you're just on a journey to discover new stuff based off of that. But now
you just leave the playlist on and you like,
you just leave a playlist on, or
you
the
can
fucking
jam to it
AI
all day.
DJ. The
Yeah,
AI DJ. If I'm in a rush in a car, it's AI DJ, and then you know what it is after that? Shame. It's a feeling of shame. I get out the car and I'm thinking, fuck, why didn't I just spend like a minute more just thinking, what album could I put on? It is
so
literal shame, and that's maybe a bit of an overstatement and a bit over the top.
so it's like
But
watching porn.
it is like watching porn. It's
Yeah.
exactly like watching porn. Because
You
it's
just get
like
given
this
it on a
short,
platter.
very quick, like they know what I like, and they
Yeah.
get me there. But then afterwards, you just feel lousy, you
Yeah.
know.
But
Um,
I'm surprised that you've gone for the AI DJ. Like, do you ever use the daily mixes?
I do use daily mixes, and I love the Discover Weekly. To be fair,
Yeah. Like,
that's what I say in terms of the algorithm hitting the nail on the head. I've been very impressed with the Discover Weekly playlist. But I just and the AI DJ is ridiculous because it
as soon as I
literally
heard that voice, I
plays.
turned it off.
Hey, what's up? It's DJX.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on? It's your DJX. Hey,
I think I turned it off before I let it pick any music for me. I just heard his voice and was like, nah.
what's going on? Yeah, he's
But yeah, I don't want to
anyway.
bash Spotify for
No.
that, because like they have built a very good tool. Like it is very good, but I think as an unintended consequence of that, there's a bit of magic lost, and that's part of what this journey is about as well, and what we're doing and finding that balance and kind of reconnecting to the music a bit more on a personal and physical level.
Yeah. Whether it's digging through records and finding that record that you wanted, you get a feeling that you won't get if you just pull it up on Spotify.
Yeah.
I think it is a good thing as well, but it's the excess that's the issue. And why can't we just do both? I feel like it's one or the other. if you lean too far into the algorithm side of things, I don't think you ever really trust the judgment of whatever else you may pick without it.
Yeah, you can become dependent on it, I think. So,
Yeah.
no, it's a good thing to
you lose
practice.
trust in your own judgment. Do you know what I mean?
But that's been one of the very interesting things about this kind of memory trip down memory lane I've been on the last couple of weeks. You know, like listening to these bands that I haven't heard for 5, 6, 7 years, and like realizing how much I know about these bands, like which towns they're from, like if they've got families in the band, like sometimes even I don't know, just
Where they
random
played their
stuff like
first gig or
personality things, yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't have that same level with like music I think I've discovered recently. And you know, part of that I think is also just probably being older and not spending all my time on music magazines and having
Yeah,
other
life can take over
interesting
a little
hobbies and
bit.
stuff. Yeah, no, but I think it's important to know the backstory behind what you're listening to. I think it adds a lot to the music, you know, knowing the people behind it and not just hearing a song, but knowing the story or having a feel for what the story might be coming from.
What you've touched on reminds you to kind of make effort with what you loved before as well. And
Yeah,
try and just now in the adult state understand why you loved it. You know,
yeah.
whether it is as simple as your friends putting you onto it or whether it was more deep rooted than that. Maybe you listen to the lyrics again and you find a reason why they resonated with you. And
But no, it has been
um,
interesting because I've gone back even to like the metal days, and the worst. I would say that like the bands that my friends put me onto that I said I liked at the time
mm,
didn't really resonate with me much now, and a few of the bands that I found myself, I still thought were sick.
yeah, okay.
So that was interesting.
I think technically the music of that time was good. There's a lot of post
Yeah,
grunge bands where I'm like, it's a shame about the vocals, the instrumentation, sick, but it's a shame about the vocals and the lyrics and the clothes and everything else, you know. Um,
but you know,
so
it tells a story as well.
it
It's
does,
interesting.
yeah, and I don't think it ever leaves you, man. I don't think it ever leaves you. So I think, yeah, it's a nice topic to touch on, man. The idea that everyone's got them bands, and if it's been a while since you've delved into those bands, maybe you've even forgotten them bands. Maybe those bands, because it's hard if you used to think what are the top 5 bands that resonated with you when you were younger. I think I need a minute to think about that.
Mate,
Like
I've honestly, for the last week, I've been remembering bands which I'd completely, like, absolutely, completely forgotten.
completely forgot. Yeah,
Like, literally nothing. And then, like, seeing it again and my memory's coming back. I'm like, fuck, I loved this, like, for ages.
loved it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then you're just getting like a dopamine hit off the album cover alone, ain't you? Because it's like, oh shit, that's
Literally
when I
just
bought
a,
my first pair of Heelys.
yeah. I mean,
I mean, no, obviously not.
Rambles and Records.
Have a think
be
about,
surprised how much stuff, if you've been like, listening to music for a while, how much stuff
yeah,
you will realize you forgot.
yeah. I'm gonna go do it right now.
Highly encourage it. It's been a great experience.
Yeah, man. Okay, so we'll be back very soon. We've got something special lined up.
And don't forget to eat your broccoli.
Eat the broccoli. It's always food references with you.
I did it again.
Done it again. It's always fucking food references.
I don't know why I'm always thinking about. I need to reconsider my life.
Nah,
Maybe.
it's good. It's good to be healthy. It's good to be healthy. Eat your fucking broccoli. You know what? Don't even listen to music.
Yeah, just eat food all the time.
See you
Cool.
next week.
See you next week.